Today's episodes begins with a story, the story from Renata. Renata is a 27-year-old grad student in sustainable design. She's living in a modest old farmhouse just outside of Berlin, Germany, where she grows herbs, brews tea blends, and tries to rebuild her inner world after a very painful breakup. She's thoughtful, creative, and also highly sensitive. But for years, she questioned her own reality in a love story that slowly turned into a cycle of confusion and control. If you've ever been in a confusing or painful relationship, I invite you to listen closely. This is a space for reflection, connection, and gentle truth-telling. And before we really dive in, if this is the kind of conversation that resonates with you, consider subscribing to this channel. It helps more people find these reflections, and it helps build a healing, thoughtful community around us. So, thank you. Let's start with take a breath together. And begin. So I received a message from Renata, a story I know many of you will recognize, perhaps in your own way, and I'll just read the story for you. I am exhausted. I dated a guy for 5 years, which was dreadful time. It started really nice. He bought me presents, he was very sweet to me, but all on his terms. He kept me away from my family and friends on my birthday, but then treated me with a lot of special attention. Also, on the weekends, this would happen. I started to feel isolated, but I had him. He could do anything he wanted, but if I was to do the same, he would make it a major issue. He would constantly go out with his coworkers, and sometimes with only just this one female coworker, would not invite me and come home drunk and out of his mind. But if I went shopping with a friend or going out with my aunt, he would ask why he wasn't invited. Over time, he stopped buying me presents, and actually, he insisted me to buy him the things he needed because he didn't like to spend money anymore. I had enough, he would say. But even though he worked for a large marketing company and I was struggling to make ends meet in grad school, working 3 part-time jobs and juggling unpaid internship, there was a constant gaslighting, withholding of affection and unrealistic expectations of me. He also had a horrible temper, and whenever I would try to address a concern with him, it resulted in a screaming match of him punching a wall. It was awful, but I could still handle that. The gaslighting, though, made me feel like I was going crazy. I started to doubt myself. The subtle noises became worse over time. I ended up agreeing with him just to avoid problems. 5 years of this, and thank God I got away. He tried to turn my friends against me after we broke up. He probably still blames me for everything. It took me so long to put myself back together, emotionally and mentally, and at times, I feel extremely anxious and afraid. Then I feel so small and broken. And in my dreams, some of our fights are still haunting me. It would make me feel better if I would understand how my ex became a person like this. Is he a narcissist? And is that the same as being a psychopath? So thank you for sharing your story, Renata. First of all, I really want to acknowledge the depth of pain, confusion, and strength in your words. And what you went through was not only unfair, it was deeply disorienting. And the fact that you are speaking it aloud now, naming it with clarity and honesty, is already a big part of your healing. So let's slow down together and again take a breath. After hearing this story, in therapy, we're inspired by internal family systems, or IFS. And here we understand that the mind is made up of many parts, each with their own feelings, thoughts, and protective strategies. And when I was reading your message, I hear the voices of several parts. A part that still feels anxious and afraid, a part that's exhausted and maybe a bit angry. I noticed the part that is trying to make sense of everything that happened, and perhaps a very young part that feels betrayed, abandoned, unseen. And none of these parts are wrong. Each of them is doing what it knows to do. It's trying to keep you safe in a world that deeply became unsafe. Like the anxiety. It really makes sense. That part of you is still scanning for danger because it learned that danger could come at any moment. And the dreams also makes so much sense. We call that re-experiencing. At night, your mind processes unresolved emotions or memories, or bringing them up in vivid dreams, as if you are reliving the past. That's your system's way of trying to process something that was too much to digest at the time because you were probably on a high alert. We also call these flashbacks. Sudden, vivid recollections of the traumatic events where the person feels as though they are reliving the experience, or we call them intrusive memories. Unwanted, distressing memories of the traumatic events that can interrupt our daily life or nights. Some people call these terror nights for a reason. The doubts about whether you're crazy, that is a protector part, one that learns to survive by questioning yourself instead of him. Because back then, questioning yourself may have felt safer than facing the truth that he wouldn't change. What we know in IFS and in therapy is this: the more compassion you can bring to these parts, not just intellectually, but somatically, emotionally, and spiritually, the more space you begin to feel inside. Space to breathe, space to choose, space to reconnect with yourself, that unshakable, calm, clear essence within you. So you also asked, is my ex-boyfriend a narcissist? Is he a psychopath? So these are big questions. And I also really want to honor those questions. So let's talk about that. There is a profound link between narcissism and psychopathy. You could say that psychopathy is the more extreme end, where empathy is completely, entirely cut off. But narcissism too is often a result of a deep early injury, a fracture in the ability to connect vulnerably, to feel safe while being seen, to stay in relationship, in connection without control of domination. Somewhere along the way, many narcissists made a decision, and often unconsciously, I will never feel that shame again. I will never feel that shame again. This is very, very crucial. And like I say, often unconscious. And when someone refuses to feel the shame, somebody else has to carry it. So let that sink in for a moment. When someone refuses to feel shame, someone else has to carry it. And in your case, Renata, that someone was you. You were manipulated, gaslit, and treated disrespectfully, and these are not things that we can justify. But I want to offer some compassionate clarity here, not for his sake per se, but for yours. Because when we understand what creates these patterns, we stop blaming ourselves for them. We see them for what they are, protective mechanisms in others that became destructive to us. So, will a narcissist ever change? Here is the hard truth. Not without willingness, not without the courage to face the original pain that created the disconnection in the first place. And that is a terrifying task because it means walking back into the very shame, the fear, the helplessness they tried so hard to escape from. So, yes, change is possible, but honestly, it is rare because the emotional cost of healing for the narcissist is very high and it must come from within. But let's bring the attention back to you now, Renata. You ask what to do to feel better. And from a therapy lens, here's where we start. Let your story be witnessed. You've already begun, so that's beautiful. If there's anyone out there who feels resonance with this story, please share some of it in the comments. Let your story or parts of it, and I know this is a public space and it might not be fully safe, so be very careful with yourself and your own boundaries here, but let your story be witnessed here, and also in this way let Renata know that she is not alone. Name what was real. No, you are not crazy. That was gaslighting. That was manipulation. You felt what you felt and it was real. Others may help you here again if you are able to let your story be witnessed. Then reconnect with your body through the breath, touch, movement, grounding. As we know, trauma lives in our body. So must healing come from the body. Rebuild boundaries. Clear, straightforward boundaries to others, to yourself. Just know. A lot will move internally, not just external boundaries, but also internal boundaries. Learning to recognize the part of you that felt responsible for other people's emotions and helping these parts to rest. This often needs some practice. So let go of shame. It was never yours to carry. Again, boundaries. Trust the parts of you that knew something was wrong. They are not weak. They are the wise parts within you. This is your gut, your intuition. The more you lose sight of your innocence, and this is really under attack in such a relationship, your innocence, the more you lose connection with your intuition. I repeat, because this is very important, the more you lose sight of your innocence, the more you lose connection with your sensitive, intuitive parts. You harden inside. So setting boundaries, protecting that innocent, true part of you back into safety, and flow of intuition will come. It will return again. So, Renata, I wonder if you can gently sense into these parts right now. Perhaps especially the younger ones that are still feeling afraid or confused. Can you notice where she lives in your body? That part? Maybe in your chest, your belly, your throat. Let's stay curious, without judgment. What is her age of that part? The age of that part of you that was so deeply affected by those years of unpredictability and pain. And what does she, that part, most need from you right now? From the calm, witnessing self that I believe is present in you too. This is where healing begins, not by fixing, not by analyzing, but by building a relationship, part by part, with the ones inside that have carried so much for so long. In therapy, we call this the return to sacred presence, a practice of meeting our inner world with unconditional love, especially the parts we once exiled, judged, or were abandoned. Healing, like nature, knows its own rhythm, and rhythm takes time. Often I think of the earth when I speak about healing, how she holds without rushing, how she softens with rain, renews with each season, and knows how to turn even death into nourishment. So, if it feels slow, or if you still have days of doubt or feeling the pain, it's okay. It really takes time. Compassion for your own rhythm and patience with the process are some of the most valuable medicines we have. So, Renata, you are not broken. You are actually becoming. And I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your story with us with me, with this whole community. And I wish you all the best, your own process. And if this conversation in whatever way resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe to stay connected for more stories and case stories like this I would like to focus on in the future. And also sharing this with a friend might just be the support they need today. So let's grow this sacred care circle together.